Hi everyone, so good to see all of you here. Um, I think we're still waiting for a few more to join us, so bear with me for a while. All right, thank you so much for joining this workshop. Today I will be presenting to you about reading and writing for children from ages of 2 all the way to 6. Basically, children before their primary years. My name's Hidayah. My experience in reading and writing goes all the way back to 2010 when I first joined this industry. I was teaching reading and writing to children from ages 3 years old all the way to 17 and 18 years old. So I've seen the progress. I've seen the development of each year, and we need to all be reminded that all children are different. So I know as parents, we are we are all very concerned about how our children are developing and progressing in terms of their reading and writing. So thank you very much again for joining me. I am also accompanied by my 3 tech team support. They are also teachers from Chiltern House. They'll be here to help me in terms of the tech stuff. All right. So I think without further ado, I would like to start today's workshop by explaining to you and going through one aspect of reading and writing at a time. So let me just share screen with you. All right. So over here, we are going to start off with the predictors of early literacy. So in terms of early literacy comprises of both reading and writing, but of course, when we say early literacy, we're not expecting our children at a very young age of 2 or 3 to be able to read and write already. So early literacy is so we're looking at predictors of early literacy. We're looking at the indicators. We're looking at what we need to have in terms of developing our child's literacy at an early age. So the 5 main things that we need to look out for are the oral language, the phonemic awareness, the alphabet awareness, the print awareness or the concept of print, and then early writing with inventive spelling. So if you look at the predictors, we're not going directly straight into getting the children to read and write. We are looking at other factors first. Okay, we're looking at other factors first that would actually contribute to how our child develops in terms of their reading and writing. So the first thing we need to look at is their oral language. So a child at a very young age, they're still developing their language. They're still learning how to speak. They're learning how to form sentences. They're learning to connect between an item to the word related to it. So for example, if you hold down an apple, a child needs to see the apple as the object and link it to the word apple, to associate the word apple with the object. So that's one of the things that we teach our children. So we use flashcards, right, at home, and we do a lot of talking with them. So what we do at home affects them a lot in terms of this. What we model to them, the language that we use at home, um, it affects them in terms of their oral language. So we see this across the board until they are at least at the age of 5 or 6 when they can capture more vocabulary. So you can see from a child who's just learning how to talk to a 6-year-old with more vocabulary, the sentences become longer, the comprehension becomes better. So that's why oral language is very important. So how we model speaking to children is very important for them to capture how to create the sentences, what to relate the vocabulary, to have that vocabulary in them. Then we'll look at phonemic awareness. So phonemic awareness, it's not just memorizing the alphabets, A to Z. It's also linking the sounds of the alphabets to the alphabet itself. So for a child, they might not be able to tell you what letter A would spell out. But the sound of letter A, like letter A makes the sound it is what they would capture first. It's the sound. So it trains their listening skills too. So this is what we call phonemic awareness. Then we'll go towards alphabet awareness. So some children, instead of saying that apple starts with the letter A, they recognize it better as apple begins with the sound ah. Then we'll go to comes from the letter A. So it depends on how your child processes these information. Some might have alphabet awareness first, some might have phonemic awareness first. But either way, these two goes hand in hand in terms of being a predictor of early literacy for your child. And then we'll move on to print awareness. So this is where books and visual learning aids play a very big part. So in books, if you see books for toddlers, books for children, they are very colorful. They are full of details. They are they're not small in size. Even board books, they are small in size, but their print is very big, very large. So this is to gauge and capture your children so that they can have that association that the picture is linked to the words or the letters that are printed on the book. So this is what we call print awareness. So definitely the development goes on by all the stages. When they grow older, when they reach to an age where they can start reading a little bit, they start to associate more words into that is on the book, that is printed on the book. And then we'll go to early writing with inventive spelling. So this is not so much of getting them to correctly spell. Inventive spelling is for them to basically link everything else that they've learned from the oral predictor all the way to the print awareness predictor to combine it into one. So if a child is attempting to write or spell the word cat, so this child will be able to associate the word cat with the animal cat. And then to have that phonemic awareness that cat has the sound k, and t. And then to link it to the alphabet awareness, whereby k is the letter C, is for the letter A, and T for the letter T. And then to be able to put it onto paper using a pencil and to try to replicate the print by what we call inventive spelling. So if you actually have children who are already at the age of 6 or 5 years old, you'll be able to see more of this happening when they try to guess, okay, how to spell my name, or how do you spell the word book, or how do you spell mommy's name, how do I spell daddy's name. So they'll start using all these predictors to get there, to get to the inventive spelling stage. So this is the 5 predictors of early literacy um, that you need to take note of. It happens at home, um, it happens in school too. So the next slide would be, hold on, my slide is not moving. Okay, so the building blocks in early literacy. Okay, so there are 4 building blocks in early literacy. There's reading and writing, which is the most common thing that people focus on, but there's also speaking and listening, the oral part, listening part. So reading and writing is not just reading and writing. Essentially, reading and writing has a lot of other components in it, which is also a part of speaking and listening. So a child needs to be able to listen to the sound of the alphabets, to the sound of the words, to be able to pronounce it, which leads to speaking. So from speaking, the child learns to create sentences before they are able to either read or write. So it happens all at the same time, but it doesn't happen. It takes time to develop, I would say. So a child may be able to listen very well and speak very well, but not yet at that reading and writing stage, which is fine. A child might be able to read very well, but when asked questions, might not be able to answer confidently or have enough vocabulary to actually form or tell you, express to you what they are feeling or what they want or what they want to basically create in terms of storytelling. And writing wise is also something that needs to be developed while simultaneously, but it doesn't all happen at the same time. They all take very different stages or very different developmental timing because every child is different. Okay, so you just need to bear in mind that if you have more than one child, I've heard parents saying this so many times, oh, my eldest, was able to do this by the age of 4 or 5, but my second child, my youngest child, is taking very long. You need to understand that every child is different. So you just have to embrace it. It's something that they all need to learn in their own phase, in their own pace. Sorry. All right, so next we're looking at challenges in children, especially in the preschool age. So in Chiltern House, we have children coming in to Chiltern House from the age of 18 months all the way to 6 years old. So one of the most common thing that we identify is their speech. So, you know, as the slide is mentioning, it's because of limited vocabulary. So when they cannot relay what they want to say, a lot of times they feel very shy or they feel very unheard. So they refuse to speak. They don't want to speak because they feel like they're not being heard. Or they just get very frustrated. They're trying to tell you something, but they don't have the words for it. And the adults are struggling too to understand and try to connect the dots. So they can sense our frustration as adults, um, and they feel frustrated too. So this happens both at home and at school. Um, so how do we counter this? Is to do a lot of discussion with them, a lot of talking, a lot of introducing new vocabulary to them and how to use it. A lot of people think introducing vocabulary is just by saying, okay, this word means this. We also have to model how to use the words. So for example, if a child needs to go to the toilet, instead of just telling the mom or the dad or the teachers, he, who, we can actually model this by saying, may I go to the toilet, please? So it's a longer sentence. So they know that, oh, okay, so this is a question being asked if I need to go to the toilet. Or if I want to indicate that I need to poo, we can also say, I need to go to the toilet to, I need to go to the toilet to wash my hands, I need to go to the toilet to pee. So this gives the child, instead of just instead of just giving a word and the definition of it, when we model how to use that word, the child understands better. Oh, so this is what I use this word for. This is how I use the word in a sentence. So in preschool, we realize that a lot of children, when they have speech complications, it's mostly just because they don't have the vocabulary or they don't have the confidence to speak. So a lot of the things that we do in school is just a lot of discussions, a lot of talking. So at home, you can do the same thing too. You can discuss about anything that you see around you. A lot of them, when they're exposed to words being spoken or modeled by adults, they capture it and they'll be able to do or speak. They'll be able to model it back in a way. All right. Now, next, we also experience children who have the inability to recognize sounds. So, children who have this challenge will find it very difficult to read because they feel like it's a lot of pressure on them because they couldn't recognize the sounds, they couldn't emulate the sound back, they couldn't model it back, they just couldn't capture it, so they feel like it's very pressuring for them. So this leads them to losing interest in reading. And as adults, we tend to have certain expectations certain expectations in terms of how we want our child to be able to read. And if a child cannot recognize a sound, we drill them. We make sure that they know, okay, A makes a sound, A makes a sound, you know. And if the child still couldn't get it, it's more on the effect of the child being frustrated. And this is why children just reject reading once and for all, because they feel like it's such a difficult thing to capture, such a difficult thing to do. So we also have to understand every child has their own reading phase. So it's okay if your child is already at the age of 4 and still struggles with recognizing sounds. It will come to them when they're ready. It will come to them. All we need to do is just constantly encouraging them, constantly, doing activities with them, making it fun, making it seem like it's something that they don't have to feel so pressured to do as of yet, because the actual reading age, according to a study in United Kingdom, is actually between the age 4 to 8 years old. This is when children actually are able to start reading. So it's very normal if your child is in that range, that they are still learning how to read. It's okay. It's perfectly fine. We just have to be very encouraging to our children. Writing. So writing is also a challenge. So a lot of times, when because I do teach the older levels too, like the 5 and the 6 year olds, a lot of times I notice that with writing, it's more on them getting very tired of it. Like when they write certain sentences, they feel that it's a lot of work, a lot of writing, and they get tired and then they just lose interest in writing. So when you in Chiltern House, when you are in nursery level, there's a lot of exercise that you do that we call pre-writing exercises. So pre-writing exercise is not necessarily writing with a pencil and a paper. It's more on getting their fine motor skills exercised, building the muscles in their hands, making them stronger, having that strength to write. So we do a lot of cutting, playing with Play-Doh. This is something that you can also do at home. So get your child involved. When you're making bread, get them to knead the dough. Do a lot of uh, pincer, get the tongs, get them to pick up things with tongs. Practice a lot of things with their hands. This helps them build that strength and the muscle that they need when they are actually required to start writing. So they don't feel that demotivation that writing is tiring, writing is a lot of work. So this is something that you can do at home, as well as, you know we also do it in school. So Play-Doh, slime, get them to really help you with gardening, really go into the soil. um a lot of cutting papers, snipping papers. So next, we'll look at screen time. So this is also a challenge that I think most parents will agree that they are also facing right now, especially after the MCO, right? Uh, so after the MCO, I think we're so used to letting our children have that amount of screen time because we also need to work from home. Um, so we need to understand that screen time is not the same as print on books. Okay, hold on. I think I am a little bit laggy. Just bear with me for a while. Um, I hope we're all fine now. So let me just continue a little bit more about screen time before we move on to the next slide. So screen time, right? The challenge is, oh, thank you, mommy. I think, I hope, yeah, I think it's just the internet. Okay, this is also a challenge for me. Um, Screen time. So on screen stories. Okay, so yes, I know that some of us like to let them watch YouTube, let them watch stories. Although they're all fairy tales or child-friendly stories that are on screen, it's not the same as print on books. So visual screen animations are very fast moving. It's very fast moving that the child cannot capture any detail at all unless if you pause at a certain part of the story. It's very different than books. When you are reading books with your children, you can actually pause at a page or spend a little bit of time on a page, um, and get your child to explore the page a little bit more, discuss about the details in the page. If you have a page with a lot of animals on it, you can build their vocabulary by talking about the animals. What animals can you see? What color are they? How many legs do they have? Then you can explore a little bit further. What do you think they eat? What do you think they're doing there? Even without finishing the book, that one page can be a huge chunk of the discussion can come from one page of the book. So it's very different. And with print, they can actually associate that words on the books actually bring meaning. So especially books like storybooks with a lot of details and a few sentences at the bottom. So they know that the sentences relate to the details in the book, because eventually we want our children to be readers and readers of books with very minimal visual printed pictures like novels, right? So this is why if you look at the books at the bookstore, the board books compared to the books for toddlers, compared to the books for preschoolers, and compared to the teen books, you can see the transition. The pictures get lesser, less brighter, more words. So try your best to spend time at home to read with your child. It's very important. They listen to you, right? They discuss with you. They get that vocabulary, and they also get to explore with you. It's also a family time. So our next slide will be okay. So the other challenges basically is short attention span, mirrored writing, weak listening skills. So again, this all can be improved by just spending a bit more time at home reading books with your children. They need to transition from the very fast moving visuals on screen to the very still images in books. That helps them with their short attention span. And then their mirrored writing, don't worry. I know some parents are very worried about children having mirrored writing, but it's just how they decode the letter and try to transfer it back onto paper. It takes some time, it takes a while for them to actually be able to connect and adjust. So some letters, especially letters that look very similar, like letter B and letter D, letter P and letter Q, sometimes letter A, it's very confusing for them in the beginning. But with a lot of practice, this can be corrected and improved. Weak listening skills also can be improved once they start listening to you speak more. Again, I would like to emphasize stories on YouTube, stories on screen. The speech is very fast. The dialogues are very fast. It's just because they are full of expression. It's just because it's just that way with screen stories. But when you read a book with your child, your pace of reading, your flow is a lot calmer, a lot slower. They can actually capture every word that you say. We don't talk very fast. So that actually helps train them with their listening skills, because on screen all they hear is probably a few words. They probably miss out a few words in the middle, in between, because it's a bit too fast. But when you read with your child, it's a lot slower. The flow is a lot more um, controlled. So yeah, so you can train their listening skills, okay, with this, through this. I'm seeing a lot of questions up here. So thank you so much for writing out your questions. What I will do is I will answer to my best of ability at the end of the session. My team will compile all your questions for me to for me to answer at the end. So keep coming with your questions. Keep asking your questions. Hopefully, I'll be able to answer all of them at the end of my session. So next, we're gonna look at the stages. Okay, so for 2 year olds, so we'll start at the age of 2, okay? Because in Chiltern House, we start our pre-nursery at the age of 18 months. So we have pre-reading, pre-writing. These are all the things that we do at school that you can also do in at home. Okay, so pre-reading involves a lot of picture books, story time, teachable moments. So teachable moments is something that, for example, you're driving, and you're passing by a cat by the roadside. Okay, and you can actually talk about the cat with your child in the car while driving. What sound does a cat make? What do you think a cat eats? What colors did you see on the cat? You know, does a cat have fur or feather? They're 2 year olds. They wouldn't be able to tell you much, but what they're doing right now is absorbing vocabulary. They're absorbing vocabulary, they're absorbing understanding of what a cat is as a whole instead of just a cat is an animal. They're learning about the characteristics of the animal. So these are what we call teachable moments. It can be anything. It can be, why does a car have four wheels? You can explain on that. Why is the water cold and why is the water hot? You can teach them. These are all teachable moments. It happens randomly throughout your daily activities with them. Pre-writing involves hand-eye coordination, so lacing, stacking, arranging. So these all will help develop their muscles in their hands for them to be able to write in the future. Reading, you can start introducing them to sounds of letters. I know some of you are already starting them on flashcards or, those puzzle knobs with letter A and they have to match it, which is good. Just continue doing it, right? Read aloud stories is something that I always encourage because it creates that bond between you and your child, and it also helps the children in many, many ways. Singing songs and nursery rhymes helps them with their listening skills. Um, and also, when they are able to sing the song out to you, you'll start seeing that, okay, in the beginning, maybe they try to make up their own words. And then slowly they'll pick up the lyrics and they'll be able to sing it properly to you. So this is the development that you can take note of with your child. 3 year olds, very similar. But maybe you can introduce a bit more. So the teachable moments, having it a bit more, having more discussions, having a bit more advanced pre-writing activities like tracing, getting them to scribble on a paper, getting them used to holding a pencil, threading, something a bit more advanced than what you would do with a 2 year old. Um, you can already start showing them the relationship between words and pictures in books. So this creates that print awareness. Now they can associate the words in the book with the picture. So a lot of board books have this. A lot of children's story books have this. So it goes back to reading aloud, having that time with your child to just discuss about the story. It doesn't even have to be the whole book. You can just take your time to discuss a page with them. And then again, singing songs and nursery rhymes helps them too. Now you go to the 4 year olds. This is like a transition period where they're not yet um, able to fully read and write, but they are getting there. So now you can start introducing more things to them, slightly more advanced storybooks, more discussions, more question and answers. This is the age where they kept asking you why, how. So take this as those moments where you discuss with them. These are the teachable moments. This is the time where they absorb the most vocabulary. I've had children at 4 year old. I've had 4 year old children telling me giving me big words in sentences, using the word shelter, using the word thunderstorm, using the word um, high speed, So these all come from home, from the discussions that they have with the adults at home. This is what they capture and this is what they relay back. And because they have more vocabulary now, that they've done so many discussions with you before, they've learned all these new words, they're very excited to use them. And how do they use them? By speaking. They have more confidence in speaking, they have more understanding of the meaning of words. So, it builds up their confidence overall. We also will start introducing more print awareness at this age because now they can understand more, they can start recognizing words. So at this age, they can start reading simple words like cat, dog, because they can relate the print to the picture. They can start memorizing them or remembering them. We do have a list of words that we call sight words or rote words that you cannot blend using phonics. So like the word the, their, me. So these are the words that they will start recognizing at this age. You can start getting them to recognize at this age, um, alongside with the words that you can introduce using phonics. Writing, this is the age where we start introducing them letter formation. Um, we can start getting them to try inventive spelling. So if they can already identify the sounds that make up that word, they can try to spell it out on paper. Whether it's the right spelling or not the right spelling, it's fine because it gets them interested to try and venture on this new level of development. They can also start recognizing their name at this point, and they can start trying to write their name. So, still, read aloud stories is across the board. From a very young age all the way to 6 year olds, you will always see that read aloud stories in my slide because it is very, very important. Um, Singing songs, a more complicated song, not just Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. They can do a bit more of an advanced nursery rhyme or poem. You can get them to start listening to poems. It just builds that confidence of theirs, and it trains their listening skills for a longer period of time instead of just a very short nursery rhyme. When they go into 5 year olds, we'll look at a bit more of an advanced level here because right now it's no longer picture books, picture cards, Um, you can still have your teachable moments, you can still have your discussion, but we want them to now be able to comprehend stories. We want them to be able to recognize word and blend sounds for them to be able to make up the words. So it's more going towards reading now, um, as opposed to just completely pre-reading. So story comprehension comes from when you are reading a story with them, you get them to think about the story and ask them questions about the story. So if, for example, the picture in the book shows a cloudy day, then you can ask the child, why do you think it's cloudy? See if they can understand more than just what you've been reading to them. See if they can relate why the character is doing such things, when it's cloudy or when it's rainy. Why does the character carry an umbrella? A child might say, because probably it's going to rain because look at the clouds, it's gray. So this is what we're aiming to achieve with 5 year olds. And for writing at this point, they are probably more familiar with letter formation and inventive spelling. So now it's more on getting them to spell simple words, right, with the sounds, and copywriting. So copywriting basically is a hand-eye coordination practice where they have to try to look at the spelling and try to write it back themselves. So this is actually a practice that as adults, we tend to forget how difficult it is when we first started reading and writing. So we tend to think it's a very simple activity. But for a 5-year-old, trying to see every letter on the whiteboard or another piece of paper and trying to copy it down on their own piece of paper is actually quite a challenge. So this is something that the 5-year-olds need to be able to do because remember we're prepping them for an older for a bigger school for primary years where this is quite essential no matter where you're planning to send them, it is quite an essential skill to have all the way until their adulthood. So, copywriting is something that we start practicing. You can also do this at home if you have a whiteboard or if you just have a piece of paper laying around, you can just write a sentence, a simple sentence, and you get your child to copy it along with the spaces and the punctuation marks to just see how well they can coordinate their eye when they see visually and how they write it back down. Okay, it's a practice that you can do and is very beneficial for the child. So at this age, we know that their fine motor skills are a lot stronger now compared to when they were younger. So this is where we impose control. So in terms of the sizing of your writing, don't write too big, don't write too small, where you're writing it, so on and so forth. Okay. So if you have a child who can already read, this is where we do independent reading with guidance. So with guidance means if they need help with certain words, we'll be there. So we're not just leaving your child alone to figure it out. Um, it's what we do in school too. For children who are advanced readers, we let them explore, and if they feel like the word is a bit too difficult to pronounce, they can always come back to the teachers. So at home, you can do that too. You can leave the books, especially books that they are very familiar with, to just explore. And if they find difficulty or a challenge in pronouncing or reading certain words, you'll be there. So that's independent reading with guidance. Again, still have that read aloud stories. Even though you don't do it as often, try to have that as a practice. And then try getting your child to retell the story that they've just read or you've just read with them. Get them to sequence the story again. It helps them with the understanding of the story and the comprehension of what they're reading. You don't want your child to just be reading words and not understanding what it means. So, this is a very important component with reading. You want them to also understand what they're reading. So for 6-year-olds, it's pretty much similar with the 5-year-olds. We just add on things like we introduce to them what a character is, what is a plot, what is a setting. You can do this by, getting your child to pick out their favorite character and asking them why that character is their favorite character. We can ask them, where do you think the story happened? Is it in the forest? Is it on a ship? Is it in a cave? Right? You can also ask them what happened. That's the plot of the story. What happened in the beginning? What happened in the middle? What happened at the end? Writing can get a bit more complex and advanced at this age where they start to understand what are writing components like paragraphing and punctuation marks, sentence writing, dictation. So, dictation, this is where all the training on listening skills plays a part, where they learn how to do dictation. When the teacher or the adult reads out the word aloud and they copy it back down. Um, so, one of the things that I always emphasize to parents is that no matter what is written, right, on my slides or wherever it is, your child is an individual and your child is different than anybody else. They each are very different. So go along the pace of your child. Um, if your child is already an advanced reader at a very young age, go ahead and practice all the other components that can help your child be more advanced. If your child is still learning, it's okay. Your child has his own or her own phase. So you just need to be there and be supportive and continue reading with them and guiding them. Um, so, teachers in school, these are our roles. We facilitate the literacy development, We provide guidance, we provide opportunities, we facilitate discussions and sharing, and we observe the predictors. So our main role is to facilitate and give them the space to try and to explore what they need to know, what they need to do. So one of the things that I always tell parents is, in class we always let the children do the discussions. Instead of us discussing it, we let the child discuss the topic. We interject every now and then to give them, a better understanding, or a better vocab to use. But we allow them to have that space to discuss and share about their activities, what they did at home, if they want to discuss about a book that we just read. We allow them to ask a lot of questions. So it's something that we do in school as facilitators. We facilitate. So parents have their roles too. So you can your role is to encourage a positive reading environment. Like I said, every child is different. Try not to pressure them. You read aloud to your child, you talk to them and have discussions, you sing with them, you encourage them to explore different types of reading. So maybe you read a newspaper one day, and maybe you read a storybook another day, and maybe you read a letter another day. Get them involved in many different types of writing and reading styles. And then you have to understand the phases of your child's development. All right, so that's all from me. I will now start answering your questions. I think my team already compiled some of the questions. Regarding the sharing the presentation and also the playback version, this I will let my team uh, get back to you on this, discuss about this. Um, let's see. Anything else that we can find in the chat box? I know I saw a few just now. Let's see. Hold on. Promote listening skills in a child. Okay, so promoting listening skills is something that you can do anywhere, anytime. Um, it's basically just getting them interested and interested in some the things that you say. So you can read them a poem, you can sing songs with them, you can read a story with them. Like I said, it is easier to get them to listen to YouTube and radios, um, because it's just more convenient. But those sometimes, like I said, they go by very fast. So some children, they cannot capture the words. So how to promote it? You sing songs with them. You read books with them. You play games with words and with them. So, you can try to sing a song and not finish the song. So for example, you can say, twinkle, twinkle, little, and you just pause, get them to continue. That's how you know that they're listening to you and they're paying attention to you, and they can actually end the song or end the sentence for you. So that's one of the ways that you can promote listening to your child. Any other questions? Let me see. One of the ways also, yes, is to remove distractions. One of my team members just answered. You can also remove distractions. So um, you can try to remove YouTube, just it's just you and your child. Just enjoy singing songs with your child. Get your child to feel like singing songs with you is a special time. All right, any other questions? Hold on, I saw a few just now. Okay, let me just scroll back. um so someone asks, my child is 4 years old this year. I've tried reading books, but he doesn't seem to be able to retain his attention until the end. He gets distracted after a few pages. How do I get them to stay engaged? So, like I said, you don't have to finish the whole book. sometimes one page can lead to a huge chunk of discussion. So if you know your child is still struggling with attention, what you can do is you can try to look at one page that you think that he or she is very interested in and try to discuss about the page. It doesn't have to be reading the whole story. Until he is able to retain more attention, then maybe you can move on to maybe a little bit of the story and you can go back to just discussing. When should I be concerned if my child has issues with reading and writing? What signs should I look out for before I seek medical diagnosis? I would encourage you to speak to your teachers a lot, communicate with your teachers a lot. Your teachers are in class with your child doing all these activities a lot with them. So keep in communication with them. If something is concerning you, I would suggest there's no wrong or right. It's not wrong for you to go and seek medical or professional opinion on it. I mean, your child, you know your child best. So if you feel that strongly something is amiss, you can seek professional professional help or medical diagnosis. Your teachers will be able to also help you in terms of telling you, if they've seen any challenges with your child or if it's something that you don't have to worry about. So keep in communication with your teachers, and if you feel strongly about taking your child to see a professional, please do so. Your child, you know your child best. Another question that I have here is reading from a tablet or phone screen acceptable? As much as reading from a phone or a tablet is convenient, there's also the risk of exposing your child to too much blue light from the screen, which will not be very good for their eyes. And there will be too many distractions on a tablet and a phone. You have notifications coming in, you have people calling, you have that distraction of just closing the tab and going to another app. Um, I wouldn't advise purely reading from a screen. I would still encourage that you get them physical books. Um, not to say that, I mean, in a pinch, maybe, but I would strongly encourage that you get them a physical book. It's way better for them overall. Um, I think I'll get one or two more questions. Um, Hold on. How do we help correct horrible handwriting? Horrible handwriting. So it's a lot of practice. A lot of times, handwriting is also a habit, just like how we have a habit of doing certain things. So from an early age, if you notice that your child's not doing the letter formation correctly, you can always correct it in the beginning and then make it a habit for them. Handwriting is mostly habitual. So if you want to correct it, you can correct it at an early age or just get your child used to writing, maybe, smaller, a lot neater. It's just a lot of reminders, especially for children at an age where they start writing. A lot of reminders. And I think we are going to do one last question. And okay, so I like this question because it says here, when are children able to read? My daughter is 4 turning 5 this year, but every time I try to teach her reading, she ends up memorizing the pages instead of actually learning how to read. What do I do? This is very interesting because from my years of teaching children reading and writing, I've noticed that there are a few types of readers. So some readers are very dependent on the sound of the words, but some readers are what I call memorizers. So children who can memorize the words, they tend to forego the phonics part of blending because they don't feel the need to. They can already memorize the words. So why do I still need to blend? Um, or there are children who are very dependent on blending, that they still would like to blend, even though the words are words that you can't blend, like road words or sight words, like the word the. You can't blend the, you can't blend dia. So these children need different approaches. So if you know your child is a child who memorizes, what I like to do in class is I like to quiz them. I like to just flip a random page because I know they're memorizing the page. So I flip to a random page and I just point out to a word. If the child is able to read, I don't think your concern would be I don't think you should be so concerned, right? Because now they're not just memorizing the page. They are actually capturing the words. In a case where your child is memorizing the page, meaning they're not even paying attention to you, they can read the book by heart because they've heard you read the book so many times, or they get you to read the book so many times. Mix it up a bit, make it into a game. Um, Try to get them to focus on the words more than just listening and memorizing. So what you do, you can open the same book, but create a different story. Don't follow the words in the book. Get them a bit puzzled, get them a bit jumbled. Then they would like to go back to the sentence and try to, tally, check, you know, is mommy really reading this word to me? Because as I remembered, it wasn't that story, you know. Make it into a game, get them to count how many of the word the can you find in this book. So they need to identify the word the. So there are many ways, many fun games you can play with your children, especially involving children who memorizes the books. Um, well, I think that's all. If you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to us. Um, I know some of you are parents, our current parents, so you would know, you can reach out to us through your teachers, right? Um, if you would like to know more about reading and writing, you can always give us a call. You can always inquire more about our program, um, and we'll be able to help you more in terms of that. Yeah, so I think that is all from me. Thank you so much for attending this webinar. Um, I do want to apologize for any of the technical difficulties that I'm facing. But yes, I hope that my talk today has benefit you and would help you in your journey of reading and writing with your child. So thank you so much. Have a pleasant day ahead of you. Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you so much, everybody.